The COVID-19 pandemic has really exposed the chronic development challenges that the world is facing, and this needs to be addressed. We are talking about the growing inequality and vulnerabilities, and this includes in Asia and the Pacific itself. We know people in vulnerable situations were hard hit by the pandemic and are now recovering, unfortunately at much slower pace than others. So from this region, the pandemic pushed so many in poverty, 85 million people into extreme poverty. And there's also the issue of multidimensional poverty that has almost doubled. So it is very important to have a very comprehensive and universal social protection systems to assist people in times like these of crisis, and to also retain this even after crisis as a safeguard for the most vulnerable people. This should be prioritized really, taking also cognizance of the risks that lie ahead due to pandemics, climate change, and disasters. We don't know what is next, so we shouldn't really take them away prematurely. The Asia and the Pacific region is also home to 37 member states that are classified as LDCs, LLDCs, and SEEDs. And these are most vulnerable groups of countries to climate change, and they really face daunting development challenges as well. The priorities, based on the challenges that I outlined above, I would suggest that the Asian Pacific region should invest more in preparedness and resilience for future crises. As I said, we don't know what is next, so we better learn lessons from now so we prepare better. This will obviously entail investing in holistic risk reduction systems designed for overlaying hazards of disease, disaster, and climate change. But there is a cost to it, of course, estimated at 270 billion a year, which is a third of the current annual losses. As I already mentioned earlier, the Asian Pacific region should increase its investment in social protection from the current 4.9% of GDP, which I don't think is enough. We should at least aim for the 11%, which is the global average. In terms of climate action, I would recommend the acceleration of the decarbonization of the economy. This will require, of course, high-level, clear political direction and pledges for both mid-century decarbonization, more ambitious mid-term and long-term decarbonization targets in the nationally determined contributions, the NDCs, and also the national development plans, and fast-tracking inclusive energy transition, starting with the immediate phase of phasing out of the coal. I know it's a very delicate matter. It is also an urgent priority to find innovative ways of financing for development. There is a need to align, of course, the public and private finance to deliver sustainable development. We all know that governments alone cannot do this. This calls for developing innovative financing using green bonds, debt for climate swaps, and climate risk disclosure, eliminating harmful fossil fuel subsidies that could reduce emissions in South and Southwest Asia, for example, alone by about 16%, and introducing also carbon pricing measures. I think these are very important steps that can go a long way. Certainly, for every challenge, there are always opportunities. Although the pandemic brought devastation in terms of socioeconomic impacts, it also unleashed opportunities that we would not have really seized the opportunity. We have to build on the momentum that was created, for example, during the pandemic, to continue strengthening our social protection systems. And I'm very worried of their, discontinuation. And it's not a good idea to dismantle these systems when the pandemic is over, because as I said, we don't know what is next. Lessons learned include the need to make sufficient investment in healthcare, in education, in social protections, to cushion countries against future pandemics and other external shocks. It's clearly the case that those countries that had strong social protection systems, they were able to do better than those who didn't have. These investments will not only minimize the negative long-term effects of the pandemic, but also help generate long-lasting returns. The pandemic has also, assisted us to create the urgency to shift away from the brown economy of the past to solutions of future, such as renewable energy. It requires an urgent phasing out of coal and assisting countries that are heavily reliant on coal to develop better pathways for just transition. And climate finance really will be handy here. At the same time, it means embedding the deeper cut into carbon emissions at the front and center of national development plans and strategies. And it also means putting a price on carbon and putting an end, really, to the harmful fossil fuel subsidies. Strengthening domestic resource mobilization by countries, I think, is a very important step. In special situations, will help these countries to have the much-needed fiscal space and reduce carbon emissions. Well, I mean, ESCAP is one of the, United Nations Economic and Social Council functional commissions. The bulk of the work of the Economic and Social Council is done through its subsidiary bodies. And it can do a lot on doing sound research, policy development, and technical expertise to assist its member states and the associate member states to deliver on the 3 dimensions of sustainable development, on the economic, social, and environmental. So the convening power of ESCAP, dialogue is crucial to ensure no one is being left behind as we move forward together. ESCAP has been providing already a forum for all its member states to review and discuss sustainable development and to strengthen regional cooperation. With 8 programs of work and 5 sub-regional offices, I think ESCAP remains steadfast, as I can see, in its commitment to deliver essential services to its 53 member states and the 9 associate members, so that the next 75 years, beyond the commemoration that we had and beyond, are better than today.